As a leader, you have a tremendous opportunity to influence others. And as a matter of fact, whether you have somebody to the left or to the right of you, then you're a leader, right? Because ultimately, what leadership is influence. And so, if you have people in your life, then you have an opportunity to lead because you have an opportunity to influence them. And so I wanted to touch base on this topic of influence because it's come up over and over recently in conversations with clients and with the team. And so let's talk a little bit about what influence is. And influence is not just about, being a nice or a likable person. It really is about being intentional about how you show up and how you make others feel to kind of not get the outcome. I don't mean that there's something in it for you, but to get a desired outcome. Okay. And one of the things I immediately think about is that poem, by Maya Angelou, where she talks about that people often won't remember what you say and they won't remember what you do, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And so with the idea then, and that kind of the foundation for influence, I want you to think about something. So think about somebody in your life who's had a positive impact, who's influenced you in a positive way. So that could be, a teacher. It could be a coach, a mentor, a parent, a sibling, anybody in your life who has influenced you in a positive way. And really quick, I'm going to share a story about somebody who's positively influenced me. And I'm so lucky because there are so many people along my path throughout my life who have had tremendous influences on me, mostly in a positive way. But, also I've learned a lot and been influenced by people maybe from, looking at a situation and maybe seeing how they're talking to somebody and how that made them, how it made the other person feel. And I've been like, oh, I never want anybody to feel that way when I speak with them. So sometimes, you can see people's behavior and it influences, the behavior might be negative and it influences you in a positive way because you see the impact of that. But what I want you to think about today is somebody who's influenced you in a positive way. And so for me, there was a man throughout my adolescence and into my teenage years. His name was Clint, and he was a family friend. And my dad worked out of the state a lot. And so he really was a surrogate father for me in my formative years growing up. And, when I came into the room, he would light up. He would look me in the eye. He would talk to me like I was an adult. Just really positively, like I felt special when I walked into that room. And then, he would come to my soccer games. Their family would come to my soccer games. And while we were walking off the field, he would say, how'd you do? How do you feel like you did? And, maybe we didn't win. And he would say, well, did you do your best? And if I said yes, he'd say, then that's fantastic. Then you hold your head up, and be proud. And if I said, oh, I don't know whether I did, my best or not, he would be direct with me and say, well, then you better try harder next time. Or, so again, he also would say, quit running with your elbows out and don't tuck your thumb into your hand. So, again, really a positive influence. Now his son was battling cancer, at the time when we were, in middle school and high school, again, close family friends. And yet, even though he was going through that, he still showed up at my graduation and I got a wink, and then, and his son passed away shortly thereafter. And then unfortunately he did, a couple of years later as a result of cancer as well. But I had him in my life for that short time period, probably for 10 or 12 years. And it made such an impact on me that here now in my 50s, I still remember it was like yesterday and it was formative for me. And so who is that person for you? And then I want you to think about like their traits. How did they show up? Why did they have that kind of an impact on you? And I bet that when you start thinking about it, there are three things will probably come up. First of all, people who have influence show others how to think about something. So they might use phrases like, hey, think about it this way, or have you thought about this? or so they're teachers and they're guiding you and they're showing you how to think about something. They oftentimes will challenge us. So that in that example that I just shared about Clint, he was saying, "Did you do your best?" And then if you did, if you didn't, then try harder. Like, he got me to think about and challenged me to be better. And so that probably is something that potentially you're thinking about in this person who influenced you. And the other thing too is that they role modeled. One thing I will say that I learned from Clint is to be there, to show up for people. That means more than anything. And so, and just to make people feel seen and heard, and because it makes such a tremendous impact. And so when you're thinking about your person who has influenced you that you have in your mind right now, be thinking about those things. And then I have a question for you. And this isn't to make you feel bad, or anything. It's just to really get you thinking about, if you want to increase your level of influence, then I would ask you, how often are you demonstrating those traits, characteristics that you're thinking about as you think about that person who influenced you? How often are you intentionally showing up that way for others? So that would be the first place that I would start, is in that role modeling space. That's a great place, because it's hard for people. They can't get behind you if they don't believe the messenger. If the messenger isn't, doing what they're asking you to do, if they're not showing up in a way that, they're, again, not demonstrating that. So, I really, again, I want you to think about that. And then I want you to just start asking yourself some questions. How can I show up more, intentionally? How can I challenge others more? How can I, again, be more of a role model and show somebody the way? And, again, I really challenge you to step into this, because as a leader, you have a tremendous opportunity to influence people. And so I just wanted to get you thinking about this today, and to challenge you to ask yourself those questions and just get real with yourself, and then start showing up with a little bit more intention. And then, aspire to be like that person who influenced you to that degree. So anyway, have a fantastic day, and happy influencing.